Shut up, bitch! Oh my God! What about that?
Okay, so the first two episodes of the Last Dance documentary just ended, and wow, like I knew that this series would be something, incredibly special. I knew that it would be incredibly interesting and fun to watch, but I didn't think it would be this good. I mean, wow. When this documentary was first announced as a 10-part series, a 10-hour series, I thought that, okay, cool, but I felt like 10 hours was a little too much, and I'm like, are they really gonna, I feel like it's just gonna be a bunch of filler stuff, because 10 hours is a lot of time. But, we just went through 2 hours, and it already feels like 10 hours isn't enough, actually. So, the change in opinion for me is crazy, and man, these first two episodes were incredible, and of course, now that they're done, we have to realize that we have to wait a whole nother week for the next two episodes to come out. But luckily, the first two episodes are going to be on Netflix soon, so I can just watch those until then, because I'm definitely going to be watching that multiple times, because I know that there's some stuff I missed, and obviously, as you can tell, I'm in this video, I'm just going to basically talk a little bit about what my thoughts were on the two episodes, some of the big takeaways, and there were some. And obviously, NBA Twitter went absolutely hysterical, and it was the funniest thing in the world. And I loved every minute of it. So, the cool thing about what I'm doing for this is I'm not even going to cut this up. I'm not even going to edit it at all. If I stutter or anything, I don't care. Think of this, it's kind of like a podcast, but you know what? I don't care. I think that, because the two episodes literally just ended, so I'm literally taking everything that I just remembered from the episodes and just spewing it out and trying to remember as much as I can and try to get the most important information out. So, okay, where do we start? I have a little bit of notes here, but let's talk about some of the big takeaways that I got from the episodes. Okay, so let's talk about, first of all, what was the funniest part was, in my opinion, the roasting of Jerry Krause. And I say roasting literally because he's dead, but oh my god, I knew Jerry Krause was not a great person. He was a pretty decent manager or owner. I forgot what his role was, but a GM, sorry. He wasn't a bad GM. He was just a terrible person. He was such a huge egomaniac, and I love when they showed clips of Jordan and Pippen just roasting him. It was the funniest thing. They made fun of his height, they made fun of his weight. It was just too funny. And obviously when I talk about Krause, you can't not talk about Scottie Pippen. First get this out of the way, right? Scottie Pippen is incredibly underappreciated, and that is the biggest takeaway that I've gotten from this episode, from these two episodes. I mean, the way that Scottie Pippen was treated, and to be fair, he kind of put it on himself. I mean, that contract, 7 years, $18 million for Scottie Pippen, who was the number 2 on the Bulls on basically every category. He was number 2 or number 1. And he was the 6th highest player on the Bulls, and the 122nd highest paid player in the league at the time. Scottie Pippen, the Robin to Jordan's Batman, is getting severely underpaid. And the funniest thing is, obviously NBA Twitter had a riot, so they're all like, oh, Scottie Pippen got paid so low that he qualified for a stimulus check. And it was just NBA Twitter had a ball. And to be fair, how do you sign that huge of a contract? How do you mess up the contract? And he explained it himself, and it was oh, I want to take care of my things, and I didn't want to be a liability, which I kind of understood, but god damn, that contract is abysmal. That negotiating was terrible. Yeah, I mean, it was just that was probably the biggest thing. And the cool thing was, it was such a cliffhanger, because the episode number 2 ended right when it was talking about how Scottie Pippen and Jerry Krause were like, the relationship was like starting to fall apart and things were getting personal, and then Scottie demanded a trade. So the funny thing is, we know what happened, but the way that they produced it and the way they like filmed it and did all the editing and stuff, it left me wondering what was going to happen next, even though I already know what's going to happen next. The way they produced that episode was fantastic, and I love what they did. And that's probably the biggest takeaway that I have. What else is there that I can talk about? Jerry Krause was an egomaniac. Scottie Pippen's terrible trade. They talked about how Scottie Pippen's like upbringing, and the thing is, I didn't even know a lot about Scottie Pippen's upbringing. I just knew him as the guy who played at Central Arkansas, drafted by the Sonics, and then went to the Bulls, and then everything went from there. But I didn't even know that not only when he entered Central Arkansas, he wasn't even, like, he didn't come in as a player. He came in as an equipment manager. Then he grew 5 inches in one summer, and then became a player, and then everything took off from there. But I didn't know that he was an equipment manager to start at Central Arkansas. Like, and then they had Bill Clinton of all people, like, explaining that, which was hilarious, but whatever. I think that really what they did with Scottie Pippen's episode, or not episode, but like portion, where they talk about his background and his story, and then like everything that happened from the beginning up until the point where it's him and versus Krause, essentially. I like how they did the develop for that. Like, they talked about the upbringing, they talked about the life story and the family, and then they talked about how he got in the league, how he got into college, how he got in the league, how he adjusted in the league, being the number 2 compared to the number 1, and then how everything unfolded from there. I loved how they talked about that. What else did they talk about? Okay, we gotta talk about Michael Jordan, because there's a lot to talk about. First things first, probably the funniest thing, when they asked him, I think it was early in the beginning of episode 1, where they asked him about how Jordan played with a bunch of crackheads, essentially, cokeheads, crackheads, whatever, because, I mean, he entered the league in the 80s, which was, you know, that was the epidemic, the crack epidemic, sorry. And I liked how he kind of shared a story, and it was kind of fascinating how he talked about how he was like a young player. I think he even said he was a rookie, and then he went into, you know, the teammates' hotel room. He walked in, and there was lines of coke and marijuana, and there was these girls, and how he just basically said, hell no, walked away. And I would like to imagine what that kind of scenario would, like, if imagine like another young player in this league walking into a hotel room with their teammates with lines of coke and like a bunch of marijuana and stuff. Like, oh my god, that would be, like, imagine if that scenario happened today. Like, it would have been hilarious. And the fact that Jordan actually, he really didn't care. He decided to air it out in the episode, and everyone said that he's like snitching, but I'm like, I don't care, it's hilarious. What else did he talk about? Everyone knows that like Jordan had like this like specific mentality of like, I don't give a damn, I want to win at all costs, I don't care how it takes. And the story about his injury was probably the funniest thing. You know, how he broke his foot, and then the Bulls made the mistake, in my opinion, of sending him back to North Carolina, where he, you know, trained, and then he ended up playing without the organization even knowing. Then Jordan came back, and he played like scrap minutes, like 6-7 minutes a game. And then it was during the season when they were fighting for a playoff spot, where Jordan came in the game. It was late, the Bulls were down 1, and then, you know, the coach decided to pull Jordan out of the game. Jordan got mad, he lobbied, he ended up in the game, even though Krause didn't like that, because they didn't want to risk Jordan getting injured, because they wanted Jordan to rest for the year so that they could tank and get a solid draft pick. Jordan didn't want that because he wanted to win and get in the playoffs. That's just how he was. And when you see how he reacted and how he dealt with it, it's incredibly fascinating, because we know that Jordan was the guy who wanted to win at all costs, and he didn't care what it would take. But when you like hear the storyline develop, and there was another example of this too, like, what was it? Oh yeah, the one with the Celtics in the playoffs, where the day before game 2 against the Celtics, Jordan went golfing with Danny Ainge. Danny Ainge ended up beating him in golf, and Jordan got so mad that he basically said, get ready for the next game. The next game, Jordan dropped 63. Like, he dropped 63. He was that angry over a game of golf. Like, think about it, right? Like, he lost in golf, and it angered him so much that he dropped 63 on the 86 Celtics. By the way, this was a Bulls team that won 30 games and got in the playoffs against the 86 Celtics with Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, like this iconic Celtics team, and Jordan dropped 63 on their heads. Like, that's just psychopath. Like, that's like psycho stuff, right? Like, no not regular, I mean, like, no, like, average Joe thinks like that, you know? Like, that's just, like, the way he thought about things that way. It was just so fascinating to hear. And, those were the big takeaways, but there was also, like, a lot of incredibly, like, funny situation, like, things where, like, Jordan was, like, he didn't want to hug the teammates, or, like, Common shared a funny story where he was, like, a ball boy and he wanted to get an autograph from Jordan, and then Common ended up doing the autograph, spelled Michael's name wrong, and didn't get the money back. That was funny. What else is there? What else is there? There's a lot that happened that was just so good. And, yeah, I'm just, like, super excited for what episode 3 is gonna be. Right when the episode ended, SVP was on ESPN, and, they said that the third episode, which is next Sunday, is the Dennis Rodman episode. So, what that means is, they're gonna talk about Rodman's essentially come up in the league, which means we are going to get the juicy stuff about the Bulls battles with the Bad Boys Pistons. We all know, we know, as you're like a diehard NBA fan like I am, you know that those like, you know, playoff matchups against the Bulls and the Pistons in the late 80s, early 90s were intense, they were physical, they were personal, it was wild, and we're going to really see how they unfolded in a different we're going to hear about those matchups in a different way that we've heard before, and I think that it's going to make it so interesting because the way they developed this documentary, and they had like so many people in the interviews too. I didn't even realize, like, obviously they had like Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, they had all these reporters who covered the NBA or covered the Bulls during the league. They had the late David Stern, rest in peace. They had all these incredible people, and I'm like, wow, 2 episodes and they had like 30 people interviewed. Like, who else is there left? There's 8 episodes, so imagine how many more people we're going to hear from. You know, it's going to be like incredibly weird. And man, what else is there? There's just so much to talk about with this stuff, and I could go on and on and on, and it's just so much, you know. Like, obviously, one of the funniest things, probably in my opinion, on NBA Twitter is dragging Jerry Krause. The man's been dead for like 3 years, and we're still dragging him. I don't care. It's hilarious. What else is... Oh my god, yes. There was this moment early in the thing when the Bulls were in, I think, Paris. Or they were like in France. And Jordan was doing like a talk show appearance, and they were showing like Michael Jordan getting like his mic checked up and everything. And the person helping him asked for his autograph, and then Jordan just gave him like the death stare, and like one of the like people working was like, no, don't do this right now, you can't do this right now, don't ask for the autograph. And then it was so awkward, but it was just like the funniest thing in the world. And then you're like, of course Jordan would do that, you know, like of course Jordan would just like dead stare at a guy who was asked for an autograph. What else is there? Oh yeah, a lot of quotes that like really like stood out. You know, Larry Bird comparing Michael Jordan to God. Wild. When you have Michael Jordan talking about how, like, when you think of Michael Jordan, you also have to think of Scottie Pippen. I love that because it paints Jordan in a different light as someone who understands that he wouldn't be in the position he was, meaning Jordan, without Pippen by his side, you know. And of course, LeBron stans on Twitter were incredibly toxic. They're like, ooh, imagine if LeBron had something like this. Oh, LeBron could have done this, LeBron that. Like, that was what annoyed me the most, probably, on Twitter at least. was just like the LeBron fans like couldn't like sit and enjoy the episodes like a normal person. They had to like get their own opinions in, and they had to bring LeBron into it. It's like, just shut up and enjoy. Like, after Kobe died, I thought we agreed that after Kobe died that we were not going to do these stupid debates anymore, and we were just going to sit back and appreciate the greatness. But nope, that was, too good to be true, I guess, for some of these people, like Skip Bayless just needs to shut up. Like, he had to bring LeBron up. Like, he thinks Jordan's the greatest. Okay, fine, but like, why does he have to like shun, like, not shun, but he has to like try to prove a point. And it's like, who are you helping here? Like, your own ego? Like, I don't know what his whole deal is. Like, he lives rent free, and it's like, it's just wild to me. I never understood what his deal was. Like, I get that he doesn't like LeBron as much, but it's just like, just watch the episodes like a normal person. I don't understand. Okay, so I think that I got some of it. Of course, there is a ton that I missed, and I'm gonna go back and watch these 2 episodes again, so I'm not worried about that. But this is just like my initial opinion for these 2 episodes. Yeah, I'm excited for these 8 episodes. I think they did this really well, and I'm actually curious to see what the ratings are, because I know those are super high, especially on the ESPN version, because that was the uncensored version, and I don't know a single person who would want to watch the clean version. Like, come on, really? We're gonna watch these like stars drop the F-bomb on ESPN? That doesn't happen. So, I don't know. I thought it was interesting. I'm super excited for the next 8 episodes. It sucks we have to wait a whole week for them, but you know what? We waited so long for the first 2 episodes. I think we can wait a little bit more for these next few episodes. I'm like super excited, and as a Bulls fan, I can say that, this is incredible for me because I'm young. Like, I was born after these like Bulls championship runs, so this is a learning experience for me because I grew up watching Kobe, LeBron. I didn't grow up watching Jordan, so when I watch this, I'm learning stuff that I didn't know before, I'm learning about how Jordan was or how the 90s Bulls were, because those were before me. So this, gives me a different perspective, and I hope that this documentary gives other young people around my age, a perspective that they didn't have before, or it gives them, some information that they didn't have before. And I think that this documentary is going to do a really good job of that. They've done really good so far, and I can't wait to see what they do next. I'm super excited for episodes 3 and 4. Alright, so I think that I'm going to wrap it up here. I gave my initial thoughts. Obviously, this isn't everything. There's so much to go through, but this is just initial. Alright, so thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more NBA content like this. I plan to basically, for the next 4 weeks, I'm just going to give my initial thoughts to the episodes and then post it like the next day, or maybe even at night. I don't know. And yeah, thank you guys for watching and the continuous support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.